Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Crashing Combos. In this episode, we have Will Spitwell. This is his third time on the podcast. I can put the other podcast that he was in the show notes, so check that out. In this episode, we get into some personal things as well as some existential ideas and thoughts. Hopefully, this will resonate with some of you guys going through something similar, or at the very least, it will be entertaining for you. So, without further ado, Will Spitwell. Oh my god, fucking AI. Hey, welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Crashing Combos. We got Will here. This is his third time on the podcast. Yeah, so some of you guys that have been following us for a while may remember him. He's an artist. He does a lot of different things. It's been a minute since we spoke. I pinged him. Was it like Friday or so?
Couple days ago, yeah.
Yeah, and I put something. I don't even know what you call that. What do you call that in the messages where you can? It's like your story, but it's not like it's some new thing that Instagram started. And then I kind of just teased like if there's like more than one reality or what have you, and then you responded in the way you
Oh
did.
yeah. Yeah,
So
that is how this happened again. That's crazy. I don't know what that thing's called either.
I don't know what it is, and maybe they pushed it out in the updates, but either way, it's just and it's kind of interesting because we're talking about different realities. I think it was like how many realities are there? And you said more than one, or I forgot what you said, but it
I
was
just said more.
more. Yeah, exactly.
More.
And I've had this conversation and I've kind of let go of the idea of what people think of me when I ask these like kind of open-ended questions. But as we're driving one time, we're driving out of town. Jonathan is the founder of the program. We were driving. I was just talking about this idea of different realities and how there's proof of it by just one person's understanding based off their experiences of their perception of the world. Basically, so they base their reality and their understanding of it based off their experiences. And each different person has a different understanding of that reality. And so that just that on its own is proof of that there is multiple realities existing at once.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
had, I don't know, I guess I've been doing a lot of thinking on my own, like being on my own and how my situation has changed a lot recently. Having a lot more time to kind of be alone with my thoughts, which can be a scary thing, sometimes.
Yeah.
But I remember like a similar epiphany where I just realized that like being upset at young people or like kids doing things that we would consider, just lame brain, like they only understand the world from the point that they've been alive. Like they haven't seen the stuff in 40 years that uh they haven't seen the stuff that I've seen in 40 years at like 22 years old, 19 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they haven't been alive that long. So they really only understand the world from their reality or their perception. Crazy
That's
thing.
that's 100% correct. And even another 40-year-old that hasn't seen, okay, let's say we take a person that's 40 years old that has never left the neighborhood, that has never experienced anything outside of their neighborhood or their city, let's say. And you take another 40-year-old person that has, spent 20 years in the military, or even 10 or even 4,
Yeah,
and has seen a different state or a different city or a different culture. Their understanding and their tolerances are going to be so different.
for sure. I don't know, man. Like I'm really understanding. Like I just had this kind of thought to myself earlier, getting ready for this, but I'm really living life right now as an adult, like fully adult, single male for like the first time in my life, bro. Like since, you know what I mean? Like it's a whole different world out here, man. I don't understand anything.
Yeah. And I don't know everything. I know a little bit, kind of the sidebar conversations that we had maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. Um, and I always kind of leave the door open for anyone to, ping me or whatever. I'm not saying I know everything, but at the very least I can be an ear. I've even joked with people, but I'm like half serious, like, hey man, if you need to call me and just curse me out for like fucking 30 minutes, as long as you feel better, like then that's all right.
Yeah.
But with that, it's like I've kind of I've thought about that. Just I hear other single people talk or speak, and they talk about all these just dating, right? I'm not saying you're gonna get into the dating scene yet, but just that alone has like changed exponentially since when the last time I dated. And just this idea of like it's like you're on Amazon, but in whatever app that is. So whether it's I don't even know them all. But it kind of reminds me of the old. Remember that website was called Hot or Not. You know what I mean? And you like swipe
I've
left
heard
or
of it.
right.
I mean, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean maybe that was like the beta for whatever. I forget what's that app. This that Tinder. I don't even know if that's still around. But either way, it's that same thing, right? You're like on Amazon, like nope, yep, nope, and it not for nothing because if that's all you know, then that's all you know. So you have nothing to compare it to. You don't.
Right.
But it's strange for somebody that's kind of lived before the internet and then post internet and then how to see everything change so radically, like seemingly overnight. And it just turns everything into a material thing, even
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. That's valid as hell, man. Like that's I don't know, dude. I've been trying to figure it out. I mean, that's the only thing. And I think I subconsciously started saying that to a lot of people around me when I was checking out. You know what I mean? Like,
What do you mean checking out?
um, the location I was at, like I don't know, it might have been a deployment coming to an end, or like
Hmm.
my time being short at one of the other side jobs I've been doing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but when I was checking out of those types of things, I just was like, I kept it short, super short, and short, basically close ended. Like I didn't leave room for them to be like, oh, but by the way, you know what I mean? Like I was just that was the last thing I was gonna say to you, and now I'm out. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how it was. But
Got you.
for whatever reason, that was one of those conversations that seemed to ramble on. And yeah, like you said, not for nothing. I don't know. I think there's value there. I definitely felt what you were saying.
Yeah. And I get what you're saying also like earlier about coming to an understanding like the people. And I the way I explained it is like the first time I ever banged my shin on the bed. I mean, it still hurts like hell today, like when you do it, but or your toe on the corner of the bed or whatever.
Yeah.
The first time you do it, that shit like is like probably like one of the worst pains you'll ever feel at that moment. But fast forward, post military career, injuring yourself a lot of times in the military, but there were so far a few between, at least for me, I think. Um, or maybe I was just everything was happening so fast that I didn't have time to process the injuries. But post military career, all the injuries I sustained mountain biking, I've had time to kind of sit and think and process in various ways. And that's one of the things I've come to of how I've gotten accustomed to pain.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when before, like if I hadn't had an injury in a while, yeah, I didn't cry or nothing, but still like it still hurt like a motherfucker, or I would have to numb it with either vitamin M or Motrin or whatever, narcotic that they gave you. And I used to abuse that bitch, like, like, cause that was a thing. Like I've talked to people like that too. It's like, it's wild, like how one alcohol, if you think about alcohol in general, like how that's legal. And like in hindsight, I'm not knocking anybody that drinks, but um, when you're able to kind of, I don't want to say test it, because everything in moderation, right? But I really didn't know how to moderate back in the day. And one of the things that was kind of like, kind of joking on the side, like, yo, when I get home, I'm gonna drink a couple beers, have a Percocet, and I'll be out. I'll be good. You know what I mean? And you didn't say that in front of the commander or nothing, but that was okay because as long as you were prescribed that medicine, it was technically legal. But fast forward, it's like now I don't even take Motrin. It has to be in a lot of pain to take Motrin. And that's just through my experiences with pharmaceuticals, being on meds for like 6+ years, maybe longer. I just have a different relationship with it, a different understanding, and more of an awareness of what is actually in it and how it actually affects you for years to come, especially like when you deal with something with like psych meds or anything like that. Um, but on the other side of it, I also understand that it did sustain me and it did keep me stabilized, so I could do the mission or what have you for X amount of years. So I can appreciate it from both sides, but at the end of the day, like if I would have known these other alternatives or like ways to like breathing for one thing, like nasal breathing, there's various methods that helped me through a lot of pain, and even getting like debris ripped, like you're not ripped out, but like scraped out of my arm and stuff. Just working on breathing, dude, works wonders, dude. And it's something so basic, and you don't have to pay for it. Does that make sense? It's crazy, man.
Breathing is free. This is what I got.
Yeah,
Breathing
breathing.
for now. Act now.
For now, pretty soon they're gonna charge you. They're gonna market that bitch.
Sir, yo, seriously, man. No, definitely a lot of big rocks in there that we could break down and break down and break down. But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that perspective. And so for me, like I've just been trying to I'm processing a new area. I'm processing a new legal slash marital status. You know what I mean? Like I'm processing a lot of things at one time. I'm processing being a single parent, I guess. You know what I mean? Like even though my kids are on their own and they're grown, like that doesn't mean I don't want to be their dad anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I have to work harder at it now. You know what I mean? And I definitely miss the stability of, regardless of what had happened that week, having a steady paycheck on the first and the 15th. And now it's only on the first. And now it's a lot smaller. And now I have to split it two ways anyway. You know what I mean? Like a lot of shit has changed from what my idea of what this time period would be like when I finally got here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just I'm hanging on, man. Like I've had an opportunity to be myself a lot more and experience a lot more freedom of what being a civilian is like. Uh, but like you said, all things in moderation, man. Like that doesn't mean that these freedoms are positive for my overall perspective and where I want to go and the things I want to accomplish. You know what I mean? Ultimately. Uh, but this is me like assimilating in a new place for now, mixed with whole lot of other things and normally some alcohol.
Yeah, yeah, and I can speak to some of those things, not all those things. And at the end of the day, like the dynamics of your family and mine are obviously different. But at the same time, like some of those things we can connect on, you know what I mean? And at the
For
very
sure.
basis, I never fully understand. But at the same time, I can hear you out, you know what I mean? And kind of get my perspective in whatever way that is. Uh, but yeah, it's pretty, I've been through the legal process, not in the same way. And I've even fast forward, I've kind of had to deal with that again. And I had a different understanding of what this time period would look like for me as well and my kids. But things didn't pan out that way, man. And it's interesting how life, you think you got it figured out, and then it just fucking spins you around, and you get a little dizzy, and you're trying to get your bearings again.
That's tough. I didn't know that, man. That's tough to hear that. But I mean, I'm right there with you. You know, I mean, this whole thing was my choice. Like I chose this, and the first thing people want to ask is like, whose fault was it? And I'm like, it's nobody's fault. Like why do y'all always assume the worst? But
Yeah.
this was my decision ultimately, and at the times when I kind of second guess it, or I'm thinking like, man, do I really know what I'm doing? I have to go back to like, yeah, I chose this, and this is like both situations were uncomfortable, but this is the uncomfortability I chose. At least I
Mm.
had some say in this one. So that's how I've been pressing forward, man. Like, and I don't honestly, with the exception of some logistics details that recently blew up on me, I don't regret any of it.
Mm.
I would do it the same way. Maybe not the same way, but I would do it again.
I hear that, man. And I hear what you're saying. And for, I'm not trying to make it about me, but at the same time, this is a conversation.
Yeah.
And if I feel like I need to say something, like to kind of hope, I don't know, at the very least, what I've learned, especially of my darkest time, one of my darkest times is it made me feel, and I didn't think I was going to receive, I didn't think this would help me that much because at the very base of it, it's like a cliche. And I didn't think it would resonate with me in the way that it did when it did. But when I found out that other people were in not the same experiences, but in the same place I was, it made me feel a little bit better. It kind of gave me like, all right, I'm not in this by myself. But with that, I made a choice um, a while back. It was my choice, and it was it was difficult. There were some things I would have like did differently during that time. Obviously, with new eyes, new perspective, just in a different place. I was not in the right place at that time. But at the same time, yeah, it was my choice too. It was my choice, and that I made it because I felt at the time, even though everyone has their own opinions and their understandings and how they view certain things. And again, going back to people's understanding their reality based off their experiences. But
Yep.
I also understand that some people in general choose to not remember certain things that happened in um, any relationship for that matter. And things that were said or what have you. And with that, when I had time away, time alone, and time to kind of collect my thoughts, I came to the understanding like, in order for me to be a better father, I had to make a decision that I didn't want to, because of the person that I was at that time and the way just relationships are, young, early on. I had to I had to make the choice, and I felt that at that time that I would, in order to be a better father, yeah, I may not have been present, and that's a whole different like part of the equation, sustainability, like as far as paycheck, medical, etc. I thought that was the best choice at that time. Um, in hindsight, I would do it again. I'd probably change some things, but as they say, hindsight's always 2020, right?
Yep.
Um, but yeah, and I'm pretty sure that factors into some of the things today. I've always tried to be honest. Uh, and, I don't choose to say all the details of it. I mean, my kids were younger at that time, but at the same time, what I do know as far as um, the things that happen within those walls is like the reason why I made the choice. But with that, it's also, yeah, it's it's complicated, and people ask me the same questions, or they accuse me of what have you, and vice versa. And I don't understand. I understand now that relationships are different, and some people try to tie, like a unit, but each like my relationship with my kids, they are each individual in their own way, right? And when the whole collective tries to be included with it, that usually doesn't play well because then they will put their feelings on the kids or vice versa. And
Are you talking about like in the it takes a village way, or are you talking about like uh product of your environment way?
mm, I guess I'm dancing around a little bit, and I wouldn't say it takes a village. It's more so like choose a side. You know what I mean? And it's, you know what I'm saying?
You can't hear me?
I hear you now.
Sorry, I had to take the mobile set up.
Oh, you're good.
Um, I don't know, man. I for me, there's a lot. There's just a lot going on. This definitely wasn't going to be like an Oprah Winfrey type thing where
Hey, man.
where the prince or Megan cries or something. But
I don't even know what you're talking about.
there's been a lot of change going on, man, and just so much happening and swirling all at once.
Yeah.
I just been trying to, as my guy once told me, I'm just trying to keep it shiny side up, dirty side down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh goodness.
The one thing I've kind of learned because I've taken many different approaches, like military, they teach you that, right? Like being a leader, a good leader is applying different approaches like to each person, and each situation will change. So you have to be versatile in what your approach is. And I've applied that many times over, um, more specifically with my kids, um, and taking different angles, different conversations, heart to heart, talking. I talk to them the way I'm talking to you right now.
Talk to who
And
that way?
what's up?
You talk to who that way?
My kids.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, they got their minds, they got their priorities, they have their understanding of the world. And with that, it's also like,
You're about to get harder to hear.
okay. So I just try to focus on improving myself and becoming a better person because I know I'm not perfect by any means. I've especially looking back on the person I was and how I handled situations, how I, you know, dealt with situations, and whether it was trying to cope with them, trying to do whatever. Um, I'm just trying to move forward and try to be a better person. So when they do come back in my life, I could be a better father to them, if that makes sense.
So I had my youngest up right before Christmas time, and me and his mother had a conversation about it kind of beforehand. I apologize for all this noise. This refrigerator's got to be the loudest.
Dude, I can't even hear it, dude.
You can't hear me at all.
No, I can't hear the refrigerator. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So me and his mom had a conversation about it kind of beforehand, wherein, as you know, kind of predictable, uh, she didn't necessarily, with open arms, let him come check me out up here. But
Mhm.
I said, I said I didn't argue with her about it. We didn't get nasty with each other. I just said, well, I'll just ask him. You know what I mean? And in the back of my head, I'm like, he's 18.
Yeah.
And I guess in the back of her head, she heard me, either even though neither one of us said that. But yeah, he came and checked me out, man. It was dope. I was glad he chose to do that. You know what I mean? And it was his choice.
Yeah. And that's the big thing, right? It's different when
Go ahead.
It's
It's different. What?
it's different when it's their choice. It's different when the child makes the choice to be with you as opposed to they feel they need to be with you because they don't want to feel bad or feel obligated to be there.
Yeah, and that's the conversation I had with my youngest. I said, it's not that I wouldn't fight for you, you know what I mean? But I feel like she needs you more right now. And
Mm.
that was yeah, that was an emotional for me, you can't hurt a teenager's feelings these days. But for me, that was an emotional conversation.
Mm. I think you can hurt it. Well, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but I think they're just a lot better at hiding it because unfortunately, the face-to-face conversations is so lacking in today's environment with technology that
Absolutely.
they don't know how to deal with it or read verbal nonverbals or show emotion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of the I call them Thundercats because they wanted to be dogs so bad. A lot of the young guys that came through, um, they were like that, and I just like I'm like man, I literally have children your age. Like you guys need to calm down.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting how you not you specifically, but in I've heard like a common trend in smoke pits, deployments. I mean, you name it. Like, and there's this common trend, and hopefully, it doesn't sound like that was your case, but where it makes divorces that much more challenging. Where um, this common trend was, I mean, quote unquote, baby mama drama, where they're using the kids as pawns or in trying to manipulate them in whatever way it is to fit their narrative.
Right.
Um, and that's something I kind of been wanting to talk about for a while because of the nature of that and how that plays out. I've down some rabbit holes. And there's actually something that's not recognized by many clinicians. And from what I understand, most clinicians nowadays are not allowed to challenge the patient and their worldview of how they see things. If
Hmm.
anything, yeah, if anything, they're just hear what they say and then try to adjust, but they're not, which is strange to me because there should be some type of challenging going on
Are you
within
talking
that.
about people in the medical field aren't allowed
Correct.
to
Yeah, like
disagree with their patients'
psychologists.
worldviews?
Well, yeah, that and it's kind of becoming more of a thing nowadays. Jordan Peterson, I don't know if you listen to him. He talks about that, how a lot of clinicians are not allowed to challenge their perception of a reality that they choose to exist in, which is strange because if you're schizophrenic or if you believe in this, I mean, alternate, I don't want to say alternate reality, but if you believe you're like the president of the United States and you're not, then there should be in a place where you should challenge it, right? Or try to bring them out of that understanding or at least make them aware of it.
Is this that whole you can't offend people bit gone rampant?
That's probably part of it, but this is kind of also happening within like the patient clinician space, like based off of what his peers are telling him, is that's what he's talked about before. But it makes sense because if you kind of look around the world today, that is what's playing out, and it seems to be infecting a lot of different levels of whether it be government, whether it be um, uh, corporations. I'm pretty sure it's in the military as well. This
Yeah.
idea of like wokeism, but I'm not trying to detract too much of it. But yeah, so if yeah, so what I was trying to get to was this idea, this term that's not really. I mean, maybe it is now, but you could look it up. It's called pathogenic parenting, or parental alienation is probably like the more common word used, but that's not the actual clinical term is pathogenic parenting.
I might lose one of these cameras for a second, but I can
Okay.
still hear you.
Okay. So I can send you some videos on it, and it's pretty much where one parent like hijacks the child's system, whether intentionally or unintentionally, when they subtly or overtly alienate one parent, and they uh, like I said, willingly or unwillingly hijack the child's primal system of seeing both parents as the provider, and it hijacks it in a way where it makes one of them the threat. Because in other situations, let's say one of the parents is abusive, whether physically or sexually, whatever, or verbally, or even abuses alcohol or drugs or whatever the case may be, the child will still want to have a relationship with that parent. But in a case of a pathogenic parenting situation, the child sees the other parent as a threat, and it like just pushes them out of their life. It's kind of fucked up, but it happens a lot, and it meets this general thing that I was talking about in smoke pits, like in the military, where people were talking about their situations in whatever way that was, and it was just when you hear the kids as being pawns and whatever parents' narrative to try to turn the kid against one of the parents.
Yeah, I mean I listened to as much of that as I could while I was trying to do what I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to say like super quick, like that. No, you're right in your assumption that that has not been my experience at all, and I'll
That's
say
good.
that.
I'm glad.
Um, I mean, part of that may have been because of my kid's age,
Mm.
but also I think part of that is because we just there wasn't a bitterness. It was just like the Roots album, bro. Like things fall apart. You know what I mean? Like it was just I was forced to take a look at the amount of time that had passed, and in my mind, and maybe this is hurtful. You know, I don't mean it to be, but I'm just looking at it from like a numbers and analytics perspective. Not much progression. You know what I mean? Like kind of across the board. The only thing we did was get older together. You feel me?
Yeah.
So like
Well, what did you mean by progression? Like, is there anything specific around that, or just you try to keep it vanilla? Or
progression overall.
gotcha,
I mean it in the most ominous way possible because I mean every statistical category across the board. We're
got you.
just all we are is older. Like we're not doing better
Mm,
at anything. Like none of us. And so a lot of the milestones that passed last year or early this year, even, you know, like it really made me take a look at like, man, like what have I been doing? Like this isn't really working for me. So basically cut my own head off, reincarnated as this guy.
hmm,
Yeah, straight up. Like that's I never thought about it that way until now, but and it's pretty dark, but
hmm.
I don't take it back.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to kind of go with, and I'm not saying like I was in the same situation, but I know what you mean by the idea of like, I still going back to that decision I made. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my life, but it was a necessary one.
You talking about the first time
I'm talking about yeah, when I got my divorce.
when I first met you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, dude, that's crazy. I forgot that we were yeah. That's crazy, dude. We've known each other for a
What?
long fucking time.
You forgot that?
Yeah, like I just forgot the timeline. I know we knew each other then,
Yeah,
but yeah,
the time. Oh, the alternate realities, if you will.
yeah,
Full circle.
yeah, man. But yeah, that was a tough time in my life, definitely. But circle back, I mean, fast forward, I've become a better person because of it. Um, just being challenged in ways that I needed, if that makes sense. Um,
So as you say that, like I feel like I am where you were, probably closer to back then, because I'm just at the part where it really sucks. I'm not at the part where it starts to get good yet, but I know that that part is coming. You feel me?
yeah, that's good. That's a good thing to know because I didn't know that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, shit. Like your story is inspirational. You know, not that you're a martyr or that I mean to make you that or put that pressure on you, but like uh, at the end of the day, we just guys out here trying to do good by people and live our lives, man. Like that's how I feel about it, and that's how I've always felt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I don't see myself as that. Definitely not. Uh, that'd be fucking weird to see, for a person to see themselves in that manner, but
That's how cults begin.
follow me. And let me just say this before we get into get back to it, but the idea of people following, that's fucking weird. Like
Definitely,
that
but it's not
it's
coincidental.
I don't think it is either. I feel like
They
it's
could have called them anything: friends, buddies,
yep.
pals,
I feel like
asso- associates.
it's undoing a lot of traditional ideas and beliefs, like subtly, like boiling a frog, I feel.
You say undoing, I say
Mhm.
tripling down on traditions, old ideas.
Oh yeah, I guess I could see it that way too.
Yes,
But but
sir.
but it's like replacing it's definitely a system for narcissists like to thrive in, I think.
Is that the narcissist's fault, or is that because the 99% are just weak minded? If I look at you and call you a dummy, and 99, 98 other guys walk by and call you a dummy, but your 1% is like, nope, I'm the shit. Yeah, that's not the narcissist's fault. It's because the 99% are just like, bro, you know what I mean? Like everything has duality.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow your logic right now. Uh I think I know where you're going with it, but I might be the dummy. I might
I'm
be the
out.
dummy in this in this
I,
situation right now as you're
th-
explaining it.
no, I think I'm all over the place. The numbers were pretty solid though when I corrected 99 to 98.
No, I did join in '98, so it could be a dummy. Uh, but no, we'll circle back to that to the whole follower thing. But it's definitely a strange one. But yeah, it's every week. It's probably less now, but every week I would literally have conversations with Sandy and just like, look, it feels weird for me to be public. It feels weird for me to talk about these things. It feels weird to me just to be. I like to think I'm, for the most part, a private person, but I had to learn because I came to this understanding, right? Like, if I'm going to, I came to this understanding, like, I need to share my story in whatever way, like in my way, uh, to try to help others. I don't. expect anything in return. I don't want any money for it. I don't want this. I feel like I needed to do it, and I don't do it. Like, I don't get real specific all the time, but when I feel like I need to do it, I do it. But I struggled like on a weekly basis of like just deleting all my shit, just deleting it because it feels so foreign to me to do these things. And then on top of that, everything we learned in the military was OPSEC, was like, changing up your routines, not sharing where you're going, all these things, right? So I'm literally having to untrain myself to do these things. But at the same time, when I do get messages where I say something and it resonates with someone, or they say like, "Hey, we just lost somebody this week, and what you said or whatever," like, appreciate it. That's the reason I do it. And when I decided to do this, it was like, that was my why, right? When they talk about finding your why, that was why I continue to do this. Because I know a lot of these subjects, these conversations they're not exciting conversations. They're not fun. A lot of people turn, away from them because whether they're not willing to face whatever they're going through. And I say that because I used to do that. I don't know, but with that, I'm glad to a certain extent that you see what I'm trying to do, and I don't want to say appreciate, but just you just see what I'm trying to do. You get what I'm trying to do, because a lot of times I read a quote the other day and it says something about, I'm gonna fuck it up, but it was something along like something. Number one fear is to be misunderstood. I'll try to find it later, but it was just talking about the idea of somebody doing something, and I think it was like open-minded people or some creative people or something like that. Like, their number one fear is not this, but it's to be misunderstood. And I think that was my number one. I don't want to say number one fear, because I'm starting to be okay with that and just put it out there in the ether and just kind of let it help who it helps. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man. That's my cue to chime in, I guess, when you say that, because I'll be listening.
I don't know about earlier when you're making all that noise.
uh, it's been a tough time carving out this kind of space, but I have my entire space now to be able to carve out that kind of space. So it's just like I'm either being lazy or I'm exhausted from something else, but there's no reason not to do this kind of thing like once a week, man. And I got people that want to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
What kind
just
of thing?
sitting here having a conversation,
Oh, hell
like
yeah.
like being a real adult male in today's world, like even in the last 24 hours type of period. You know what I mean? I feel like when my bro sees this one, he might spaz out, because if we could get the whole crew on here somehow, via the miracle of the internet and
Good internet
landline
connection.
connections, yeah,
Yeah.
it would be epic, and it would be amazing, because a lot of our situations have changed because of how old we are, or whatever you want to put it on. Like, I'll just say the reality that's mine, and you can tie it to your reality. But
But that's what it's all about, man. That's one thing I'm finding is it's not the different. I'm gonna sound like I'm fucking. It don't fucking matter. It's it's not the differences that connect us. It's the similarities. Like, a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people, but people in general, especially people that have dealt with trauma. Some people will wear it as a badge of honor, and that's part of the process. And some people, and they compare, right? And vice versa. Like, some people will minimize and not want to address their trauma because somebody else had it worse. But though the experiences are important to each person and their process of healing, it's really the things that will heal you, or as a group, is the similarities and connecting those storylines, and like, oh shit, you went through that too. Oh, I didn't see it that way. Or, man, like, and it's really like trying to fill in the gaps of this isolated space that we create for ourselves because we're men and because we're not encouraged to talk about these things. And there's one side, right? You could be a man. I feel like being a man is like being able to address these things and call yourself on your own shit, call people on other shit, and then adjust and correct it, right? That's part of growing. And it's also, you could also, you know, man up. And if you need a fight, I'm not saying I'm the best fighter in the world, or defend yourself, then you can do that. There's not one thing that makes, is it more, you can still, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is you can be all those things at once, or, individually, like whenever the time needs. You know what I mean?
As a man,
Yeah, as a man.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I think there was a bit T.I. went into on someone's podcast. It may have even been several years ago, and I just recently saw it again. But he was like, the gist of it is someone asked him like, so what is it that's your thing? Like, are you a father figure? Are you a crack dealer? Are you a rapper? And he's like, I'm all these things. I'm all of that.
Yeah.
So what now? But yeah, that's what that made me think of for
Yeah.
sure.
And that's exactly it. Like,
So,
I
yeah,
think,
same situation. It's whatever the situation calls for.
yeah.
But overall, I just want to chill and have people around me that enjoy having me around them.
Exactly. And that goes for family as well and friends. Like, and it goes for everyone, really.
Everybody,
Yeah.
everybody.
I
I
don't
mean,
want
the
you to,
whole gets deeper. You know what I mean? Like you said something about Amazon. If you're on Amazon, you know what I'm saying, and you click filter, you can go into like more people disappearing if you really wanted to. But yeah,
yeah.
to keep it basic, I like being in a room where I like the people that are there and they like me the same amount.
So going back to the filter thing, and that, yeah, I'm on board with you on that. I don't want anybody around because they feel that they have to be, or because
Right,
they want, just be here, and like, if you don't want to, then leave. I don't
right.
want to take, I want to take offense to it. If I don't get, like, it's strange how, let me finish the filter thing because I'm fucking old and I'll fucking forget. So I found that when you exist in this way of just kind of being who you are and what you are, and not try to be anything else, and that the people that, just for lack of a better term, that are false will kind of show their way out.
For
They won't stay
sure.
around too long, or they'll change. They'll want to be better, and they'll want to, like, I don't want to say be like you, but be a better version of themselves.
For sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
so like the filter is, I guess, automatic, I guess.
Man, I said something to the effect of those bars probably with some circularity, probably like 2008.
Mm.
And then uh within the last 48, like I said something to that effect again, like I don't know. I really felt like superhero or like a mutant or something like earlier today with just like my ability to process things. You know what it really is, and this is a whole other conversation as well. It's ADHD. That's all it really is. But once I recognize it's ADHD, I can kind of self-correct back to what an ADHD person thinks a normal person would do. You know what I mean? So just more processes through the computer, just spinning wheels for what feels like 10-minute intervals, and it's like 30 to 45 seconds. Like I always think I'm late for something, right? And then I look down and it's like, no, your brain's been moving twice as fast as your feet. You know what I mean? Or probably 5 times as fast. That's a whole new thing. Probably within the last month and a half as well, but something I feel is valid. I wouldn't have spoke on it if I didn't.
Right.
Yeah, it's just been I'm looking at myself pointing at not myself, and it's like I blend into the couch. Like this is damn near camouflage still.
That's why I suggested lighting earlier. But you said that's a mood you're in, so we'll roll with it, man.
No, this is perfect though. This
There
is
you
like
go.
this is the only way I would want to be seen right now.
There you go.
I got all the equipment on my desk. My my desk. That's not
Hey,
see that
man.
no. That's no, that wasn't take a bump. You said, no, that wasn't the coffee table. See, what happened was
Hey,
the AI generated an image. That
yeah.
hallway is actually a quarter of a mile long. That's a 32x bed right there.
There you go. Speaking of AI, deep fake. Is that what it's called? The software where you could put somebody else's face or face swap. Is that what it's called? I don't know what the fuck it's called, but that's some scary shit when I saw it like 4 years ago. It's only evolved. So
Yeah, so I think a deepfake is the act itself. I don't know what the technology used to do it is called.
mm.
Face walk,
Face swap?
face swap.
That sounds more like it.
Yeah. No, I've seen some really convincing ones too, man. But I use Lenza. You know what I mean? I like some of the stuff Lenza generated for me. And I would throw some music behind it, throw it on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? It was quick, easy promo. You know what I mean? And as long as you hashtag it Lenza, there's a lot of people that were going to see that just off the strength of how popular the app was.
I
But
don't know
then
what.
my man,
Sorry, go ahead.
but then my man sent me something that was like the terms and conditions that everybody scrolls past and fucking click accept at the bottom. Um, it said something about like you basically surrender your identity, surrender all rights to the identity of you as whatever images are created. Real rap.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, straight up. That's how they moving. So
It's it's like that new recreation. I've been seeing it circling around where people get the avatar and it's like very real. Did you do one? I don't know if you did one.
I don't know. I reposted something on Twitter about the AI took what a bunch of superpower nations would look like as a villain and created some images. Did you
Oh
see that?
wow. No, I didn't. That would be pretty cool to see though.
Dude, it was terrifying is what it was. I'll send that to you.
Yeah.
Remind me after this. I'll send that
Yeah.
to you. Maybe you could even paste it in, but
Yeah,
I'll send that
I
to you.
will. I will. Or I could look it up right now. I don't do you know what specifically it's called and I can share screen it?
Do you have a Twitter?
No. I don't have TikTok or Twitter, man. Fuck TikTok.
I have TikTok, but I don't use it. And I have Twitter as this is probably like my third Twitter, and I don't
Have
no one follows me because I don't even use my face.
no. Have you so I'm pretty sure you know all the terms and conditions with TikTok, right?
No.
I don't want to say specifically know them all, but pretty much in a nutshell, they get access to not only everything on like your network, but anybody that accesses your network, any peripherals, they can access all that stuff. And it's pretty scary stuff, man.
It's
And
Chinese. It's Chinese.
I know, and there's so
What?
many. I know, and I knew I didn't get it for a while. Like I think I downloaded it once and then I deleted it, but this was like 2 years ago. I was just like, there was just something like wrong about it. I felt, And then fast forward, all this stuff's coming out about it. But yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. It is Chinese.
Yeah, I have one, but I don't use it. I guess that's not really better because it's still connected to everything. But
Yeah.
I probably don't even show up on their algorithms. I'm less than the 0.1%.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
on the other side of that though, like our fucking our what was it, OPM breaches that all those that have fucking happened in the military, they probably have everything on me anyway. So
of course. Of course. Yeah, I don't even worry about those things. I
yeah,
just try I just try to be I just try to play it straight until I find my new alias.
there you go. You can get a
See.
plastic surgery on your face, can change your face up.
Going back up.
Yeah, these are some real ass text conversations these days.
Which ones?
All of the ones that I pay attention to.
Um, you said text conversations
Yeah,
with your friends, or you talking about?
everybody.
Oh, got you.
The ones I pay attention to, man, like
Yeah,
at all. I was um I was talking to someone the other day and they had sent me like a link, like some super detailed something or whatever, and I'm like, they pretty much indicated like I sent you the link to it. Like, did you not read that? And I was like, I mean, I seen that you sent it, and from what I did see, it sounded like a good idea, but I really only responded because it was you. You know what I mean? Like
got you.
I don't listen. I'm not checking every text message that come in or every email or who has time for that?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's an age thing, but for me, I don't know if it was like the military, maybe it's ADHD, maybe I don't know what it is, maybe ADD, but I take a while to get back to messages. I don't check all my apps, and I don't have my ring. I don't have my ringer on. That's a lie. I don't have. How can I say this? I don't have my dings on my phone. I didn't for a long time, and then people like some important stuff was coming in. I was like, shit, I need to turn my stuff on. But I don't
Yeah,
like being conditioned by my phone. And I've been around people that cannot have a conversation because if their phone goes off, you can see the pain on their face that they need to check it. And
yeah. I'm glad I'm not one of those people,
because
and
yeah, if I'm
I don't.
talking to go ahead.
Hopefully, I'll never be.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it also because people don't have a chance. If they're not aware of it, they they these apps are they're hacking the human psychology to condition people to want to be on whatever app or phone they're or to be on their phone like 24/7. The dings, the scrolling, all that stuff is geared to get people more engaged and stay on their phone on their devices. And kids don't have a chance, especially where they've been brought up with that technology.
Yeah, I feel worst about the kids because they don't know any better.
I know.
And it's up to the parents to be like, okay, no phones at the dinner table. Like that was one of my simplest and most fundamental rules. And then at a point, I came back from a deployment or something, and that shit was over with, and I never had a say again.
Yeah, I try to do that as well. Um, and at the end of the day, you're dealing with an addiction.
The
Uh,
kids are.
Yeah, kids, whether they want to admit it or not, they're addicted to their phones.
I don't
They're
know, man. I kind of feel like it has more to do with the parenting. Like
No, I agree 100%. But my point is that when it goes unchecked and there's no balance to said device, then it becomes an addiction.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when my kids came over, and I tapered it off quite a bit, but they weren't allowed to have their phones for a little bit because I wanted to spend time with them. I wanted
Right.
to be with them. I wanted to hang out with them and just chill, because they always were on their phones at home. And I mean, at their mom's house. So when they came over, and then as they got older, and then they, they started to rebel a little bit. So I started to back off. I'm like, maybe, like, obviously, I understand that this is not going away. I understand that this is part of kids' lives. So I was trying to implement a balance. I started like a schedule. You can have your phone 3 times a day. Um, and then I backed that off into like you just can't take it to your room. And then I backed that off, and then I don't know. But it wasn't just that one thing. It was a lot of different things that I really don't want to get into right now. But it's like it's definitely was challenging. But I was aware of that. I brought that up many years ago when they first got like an iPad, like at 4 years old. Those were my
Oh,
concerns because I was aware that just the security lockdowns, if they're not there, then people can hack in your shit and they have access to your kid. But
yeah.
that was not received well. And I was just pretty much told to, I didn't want to, yeah. So it didn't go well. So fast forward, you know, here we are as a society having to deal with this big problem. Like they're the experiment, like not my kids specifically. They're just part of the bigger experiment.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to look in 10 years or 15 years with this generation or these generations.
Dude, there's no telling, man. I routinely see things and comment on things on social media that reinforce for me what I already believe to be true. That
Hmm.
there's no hope. There's no hope for humanity, bro. Like it's just too far gone. It's time for the next master reset, or whatever the fuck brought the dinosaurs around, or something. And cavemen, depending on which reality you believe in, I think the next one coming soon because shit is not going well out here and it's not getting better.
So that I was tracking that for a while, right? There's like space weather, right? And the sun and it
The
this
weather's going crazy.
yeah,
People are going crazy. The seasons are going crazy.
yeah. And that was I noticed that too. At every country I would go to, place I would talk to the locals, and everyone had something different. It's like they all said the same thing. The weather's never been like this, and it was no matter where I went. United States, anywhere in the States, Germany, fucking wherever. And it was always the same thing. Like, wow, the weather's never been this crazy. It's never
Yeah,
been like this.
yeah,
And it was different times of the year. Um, so like solar weather, I was tracking that for a while, but I had to stop watching it because too much of anything's a bad thing. And it's at some point it's like, all right, I'm aware of this. Like, what am I gonna do in the event that something does happen, right? Try to
right.
prepare as much as you can, not in the sense of doomsday prep or nothing, but even if you look at the 1%, and the 1%, what I mean is like the wealthy, right? The rich, like they are fucking building bunkers, like for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. It was like, why are they doing that? And then all of a sudden, it's like looking at all these different, it's not just one thing. You got to look at a culmination of different things that are happening, right? And I thought it was strange how all of a sudden government just kind of turned over space to private industry. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden we're going to Mars, like in a fucking hurry, quick, let's go,
The
And
right amount of money.
yeah, and I mean we could chalk it up to like, well, it's the government is pigeonholed to bureaucracy and paperwork, and private industry can do it faster. Yeah, but there's more to it, I feel, to turn that over. And then on top of that, it's like you said, weather patterns. It's
I never even thought about the space thing, man. I always thought that was just a huge scam anyway. But now they're letting civilians fucking
yeah.
potentially sign up to go to space.
Yeah, they're already talking about colonizing Mars, and they're trying to take the, I don't know, however amount of people, trying to plan to, set up facilities there and live there. And um I mean, yeah, that, and then all these fucking, there's a lot of different things that kind of point to like something's going on. And then I don't know if you ever follow like Graham Hancock or Randall Carlson. Randall Carlson is like a geologist that's kind of studied like geology and looking at cataclysms and like the earth cycles. 12,600 years ago, approximately, give or take, there was the Younger Dryas, I believe. And that was like, this huge, and every religion talks about it, like floods that happen, in their texts or what have you in the course of history. And then, but he kind of shows that proof of it, like through geology. And then Graham Hancock studies like ancient societies, finding like architecture predating um, the, can go all the way back to Sumerians to predate that. They're finding more and more structures that predate, like, I don't know, 30, 40, 50,000 years old, that were advanced civilizations, not just, fucking with stone tools and shit like that. So it's like, how many times have we been reset?
Right. that
And
and that is the question.
so I've been going down a bunch of different rabbit holes. I even started to read like texts, like as far as going back and reading. Before, when I was younger, I used to read the Bible because I was made to. And when I read it, I didn't make sense. Well, one, it was hard to read for me. Two, it was like I need to read it with this belief that everything in there is true. And I was like, this shit don't make sense to me, And when I try to ask questions, I got like pretty much berated and yelled at for questioning God. I'm like, I'm not questioning God. I'm trying to read through what this is trying to tell me.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me because, like, I don't know. As a kid, like the little bit I knew about zoology, which was not much. I'm like, how the fuck you can put a tiger and a goat in the same ark or whatever, not eat each other? Whatever animal is two by two. Um,
Yeah.
Fast forward, I kind of got away from it just through the course of life and all that. And I started to kind of get back into it because as you're processing whatever traumas with a childhood or whatever, and you start opening up these boxes to better understand yourself. That was one of the things that one of my that I was brought up with. It was like, this understanding of, a creator, God, or what have you. But as I started to do that, I started to read it from a different point of view. I started to read it just as like a curious person, and then try to questions I had to try to research those. And I started reading the book of Enoch, the book of Ezekiel, that kind of talks about like, it, there's one part that says something about like, you humans have ears but don't listen. You have eyes but you don't see. But the person, Ezekiel was, if I read it right, was talking, at first he thought it was like gods, but then when he saw them and he talked to them, he's talking to them like they're other people, but they were seemingly not from here. If you read it. So it's like, all right, well, what is that? And then kind of basing that off of the limited amount of, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I might have talked about it in the last podcast. I'm not really sure when you were there. Um, but when my mom and I were driving to New Mexico, I saw like anyways, I saw something I couldn't explain. And fast forward all the aircraft that I've seen to this day, there's nothing that explains what I saw, my mom and I saw that night. Um, so everything that's kind of being released, with the UAPs and the Pentagon and all that stuff, and like the research has been kind of going on with that. Shit's so crazy right now that there's official sources saying that the possibility of extraterrestrials is real, and no, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of people talking about it.
I don't think I've ever seen extraterrestrial proof in person, but I definitely don't feel like it's it's impossible that humans are the smartest life form.
I would hope not. Yeah, and I didn't see people. I didn't see anything. I just saw a light on the road. It looked like a train light, and we were trying to follow, like just catch up with it. It looked like it was oncoming. At first, I thought it was a motorcycle, but then the closer and closer we got to it, or which wasn't that very close. At some point, I'm just kind of giving the cliff notes. We, I guess, got close enough where it started going backwards. So I was like, yeah, it's definitely a train. The tracks and maybe it hooked up with a train, and then it started pulling it back. It started going faster. You can start seeing going over terrain. And then as we're like, my mom's driving faster, it's like somebody got a laser pointer and just went up in the sky. It was just gone. And that, yeah, that always kind of left a question in my mind, but I never really talked about it. And fast forward, I've seen a lot of aircraft. We've both seen a lot of aircraft move pretty fucking fast. And the limited knowledge I know about G forces, I know there's not a human that could live or survive those type of G forces. That thing was moving. It was gone like quick.
Hmm.
So it's just these, yeah, man. Then I don't know what I'm saying, but shit's going crazy and it's spinning out of control. It seems
World,
like,
world done gone crazy.
yeah, I kind of like to blame CERN for some part of that.
Blame who?
CERN,
I'm not
the
up on. I'm not hip.
so CERN, I looked it up last time. I forgot what the acronym is, but CERN is pretty much a hadron collider. It's uh it's over in it's actually in three countries: France, Switzerland, and I forgot the other one. But it's on the like it exists in all three countries. And what they do is they send two atoms around this ring at a very high rate of speed, and then they collide, which is creating, they're trying to look for the God particle and dark matter, but they're creating like multiple big bangs, and which was what created, according to science, it created what we exist in now. And the size of a universe, I mean, it could be any size, I feel. So if you're creating these multiple like big bangs on whatever small scale you think it is, going back to the whole idea of realities, there's you can't do that and not expect it to affect ours on some level. We can get into quantum physics on it. I mean, I can't speak too much on it, but just a very high level. I mean, it's going to impact us one way or another. And
That's pretty wild that that's happening.
yeah, and it's been happening for a while now. And they shut it down for a while for something, and then they just started it up again. I'm gonna look it up right now. So I'm
Let me see if there's a way to play.
not fully talking out of my ass. I have all this information in my head, and I can't stand it. I can't recall it in the way that I want. And I've been working on my recall. thing by doing like brain games and shit, but just need to do more of them. I think that's
I'm
a
trying
lot
to
of
figure out.
head traumas and shit. So the physics of it, I'm just gonna. I don't want to read all this. I guess it ain't that long. I don't know if it was atoms, maybe it's protons. Pose a problem just as equation can have two possible solutions. Direct equation could have two solutions, one with an electron with positive energy and one for an electron with negative energy, but classical physics and common sense dictated that the energy of a particle must always be a positive number. That's talking about antimatter, though. That's one of the things that they create there is antimatter, which is not good for matter itself. That shit gets out. I don't even know what would happen.
Hmm.
So
Antimatter. What
yeah,
does that even?
I was reading it, but it didn't really have an equate like a good explanation of it. And then one of the other things they're researching is dark matter and dark energy. So talking about duality, you know,
Yeah.
and if there is duality, right, and that's one of the latest things that I've kind of come across going back to religion is if there's good, then there has to be evil. One cannot exist without the other. But yeah, going back to what I was talking about, like yeah, you can't miss with the nature of how our universe is created and then try to put it in a lab and not expect it to impact our world as we know it or our understanding of reality as we know it. And it kind of makes sense if you factor in the different levels of infinity and realities because there's a lot of like if you were to it's like it's like if we got all the plots that Hollywood's ever created and put it into real life today. That's how crazy shit is.
Just all the Hollywood plots.
Yeah, like it's
All of them. All of
they're
them ever.
they're playing all out at once. There's
Yeah.
I've seen shit like that. They're trying to they found some I don't know if it meant like a zombie virus that they found in the Arctic. I don't know if that means that it's an actual is going to bring on zombies or if it's because a virus that was dead and now they're trying to bring it back to life. I'm not sure. And there's also a virus that they just found recently. Oh,
There's
man,
always a new virus. There's
yeah,
always a new virus.
yeah, and
Don't
but
even try to survive.
knock on wood, dude. Like I don't know how or what or if maybe, but knock on wood, I don't want it. But I never got COVID,
Hmm. I
and
was a mi-
I've been traveling a lot.
Yeah, I was too. I was a minor reactive case, I guess they would call it. Like the symptoms were more severe for me,
Hmm.
but it sucked. Like it still sucked. And it was some sickness I had never experienced before.
Yeah, and I've heard that like my one of my siblings, she got it and it fucked her up. And she's not like the most healthiest and she's not the most unhealthiest either. Like she works out, she does I think I mean, but she got it pretty bad. I mean, and we can go back to like what is that called? Like virus load. Maybe she got it more
Mm,
and maybe you just
no,
got like like a not as maybe you're just around somebody and weren't around for that long, but you got enough to make you sick.
yeah.
And maybe she was around somebody for a long time and then she got it.
Did she
But
have a did she have a pre-existing condition?
if she does, she's never told me. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, I know that was one of the factors in it. And then like fast forward, there's a lot of research coming out about it that it's they still haven't found the host. And based off of biologists that have really looked into it and the how quickly it evolved, because usually in nature, I think they said it takes like if it naturally evolves, it usually takes like 5 to 10 years or something like that, something crazy. And for it to evolve so quickly, and then supposedly like from a wet market, like it's yeah. So I don't know. I'll kind of just leave it there. But yeah, it's a lot of those. I think Washington Post came out with a report now. They're starting to report on it, whether or not it actually came from that level 4 facility, which it was in Wuhan. But that was a taboo subject for such a long time. And but yeah, anyways, I'll leave it there and people can go do their own research, and they're willing to kind of just suspend their beliefs for a minute and not be so tribal in this idea of what they think it is or isn't, and just try to look at the facts. I don't know. Again, go back to CERN, motherfuckers. I don't know, because I don't know what else it could be. I mean, I'm not saying that's the full reason, but if I was a betting man, and I don't know, it's just can't play with something like that and not expect it to bite us in the ass.
Yeah, there's no it's not a slider on these kind of things. It's either on or off.
Yep. Yep.
And somebody accidentally left that motherfucker on.
Yeah. And it's not like once you create it, you can't go back. Like once you create, like if you're doing this, if you're simulating, not even simulating, if you're actually in this quote unquote controlled environment, creating like another universe, like of how we got created or
Yeah.
this universe got created, and you're doing multiple ones just for shits and giggles to see how you do it and see what it creates. Like you can't just put that in a storage closet. You know what I mean? Like just exhibit A, it's gonna have impacts on in various ways.
Definitely. I mean, if anything about science is real, it has to.
Go back to any Hollywood plot, man. And
Can't get this shit to work. I'm definitely not getting sound and video.
uh, but yeah, go back to any Hollywood plot, they all start and like they all start like the way a lot of shit has started in the past 7 years, 10 years, I guess. I just don't know how it's gonna end.
I feel like I should just keep rewatching all three Back to the Futures.
Right. So there's another I've heard of my brother-in-law's talked about that. Like, what if like all these films, right? And we can go into the idea how, and you can research this too. I say that out loud because when I say this out loud and I kind of go back 10 years or 15 years, I would have said I was full of shit and I was talking out of my ass. I was crazy. But this isn't like not public. I mean, it's public information. You can go look it up. But was it Operation Mockingbird? CIA embedded with like Hollywood and like putting a lot of the propaganda out through like films. So with that in mind, my brother-in-law, when I was talking to him, he's like, what if like these movies that they're putting out, like if they're like hinting of technologies to come or like putting these ideas out there because like they're just kind of subtly making the public aware of these things.
We're seeing how well it's received. A test
Right.
bed. A test bed.
Right.
Yep,
Because most of the battles are in the mind.
definitely. Probably 95%.
Yep. And that, and just knowing how malleable we are as humans and how susceptible we are to information. And, is that old age saying, right? It's like you are what you eat and you are what you watch too.
Yeah, you are the things you consume.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. It could either be work for the better, work for like the evil or good, or light or dark, however you want to see it. You can name whatever duality you want.
My friend,
now, that a good friend of mine. I told her a little while back now that she was the yin to a lot of yangs. And I just said it as a reaction to like something she had said that was, of course, of the conversation we were having via text. And she said that that was like one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to her.
Hmm.
True
That's
story.
that's all you how you perceive it too, right? Because that could have been taken as negatively too.
Absolutely. But I love a person's perspective when they don't always assume the worst.
Right.
And we actually touched on that at the very beginning of this conversation. I feel like you know you give someone a 50-50, and it's sunshine, rainbows, Skittles, and Starbursts on one side, or sudden death, destruction, despair, like the big three of these. I feel like a lot of the people would choose that dark side just because that's what they're around, or maybe that's what they've been influenced by. But like for someone to take the opposite perspective, regardless of that, and actually not see the worst, that shit has real value in my life right now.
It's also a choice, right? We choose which side to how to see it, right?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
and I'm not saying have like a ignorance to your response because some people could be. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, even if they are being like ill-willed, that they, but you could still have the choice to see it as a positive thing, which is probably even more rare,
Perspective, right? Like
right?
we were trained that perception is reality.
Yeah,
So
it is.
so in a lot of ways, um, the perception that you have of things, and even the perception, well, more obviously, the perception that you project, even if it's not, like what you're meaning to convey. Like someone sees you in that moment like that, which is the ridiculous thing about reality, because everybody just takes what they assume in that moment and runs with it.
Yeah, and as we say this, I used to be that way. I used to take things negatively, even though I didn't say it out loud all the time. But that was and not to, it's going to sound like I'm making an excuse, but that's just the product of my environment that I grew up in. Like, even if somebody gave me a gift, I was taught that, like, well, that means they're trying to, like, why'd you give me this gift? Like, what do you want? And that's just how I grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like somebody was, I was kind of conditioned to like to believe that everyone was trying to get something from you, or like, or trying to take advantage of you in some way. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's all I knew. Not trying to say I'm a victim of it, but that's just the reality, right? If you don't
Right.
know any better, or if that's what you're trained, or not trained, but conditioned to believe, then that's what it is. But just if I didn't join the military and didn't wasn't challenged in some of these perspectives and understandings of these different realities, as we highlighted at the beginning of this, of people's backgrounds, where they came from, who they are as people,
Yeah.
then I probably would maybe still be in that understanding of what things were. For probably to some people, they're still probably never left the neighborhood.
Mm. I don't know, man. I get kind of bittersweet every time I go back home anymore. And I'm a lot closer now than I was when I lived in the deep south. But in a lot of ways, I kind of feel, and this is no shade or anything. It's just a raw emotion, first take kind of thing. I feel a lot more distant from the people that I'm now physically closer to, if that makes any sense.
You talking about back home or
Yeah,
there? I feel the same way. It
yeah,
and it's not, how can I say this? Like my family is my family. But I feel like I don't, like, even though I'm in San Antonio, I forget that I'm in San Antonio. I'm from here, but it just feels like a different time, like
That,
a different version of what I
yes, San Antonio is a big enough place that you could live there and it'd be completely different on one side than it is on the other.
yeah, I mean, and that's true, but I forget that I'm here a lot of times, if that
You
makes
said you
sense.
don't what a lot?
I forget that I'm here quite often.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I feel like we had a really good organic conversation though.
Yeah, yeah,
What do you say?
definitely. I say, yeah, I agree. I'll be thinking about this for a while, and um, I'll probably cut some parts out in the sense of like when we're cutting off and stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm gonna leave it in. That's
Cool.
usually what I do with most conversations. I try not to take out anything.
Yeah. Yeah, not make it overly edited. I feel that.
Yeah. Because I think this is what's needed now. It's not these curated conversations where everything's scripted and, you know, these hot buttons and things like that. Like, I don't know. There's definitely a lot more that I want to say, and like how I say it, maybe we could save it for that conversation where I know you had talked about bringing some other people on. Definitely talk to them if they're cool with it. Maybe we could get like at least three other people on, just try it, see how it goes. Um, and then just go from there. Just, I don't know how we're gonna do it without trying to cut each other off or step on each other, but it's worth a shot. Does that make sense?
I mean, we've had a little bit of experience in situations like this. I think we kind of know like the moments to wait for that pause for someone to jump in,
Mm-hmm.
and then we could just defer to each other. Or if we have a format, like a loose format in mind ahead of time, just let it be known that it'll be like one of us talk, then you talk, and then one of us talk, and then Chug talk, or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, we can work like that. It's just like a set list.
Yeah. I'll talk to Chug and see when he's available, and then if you can talk to whomever
Yeah.
and figure out what their schedules are like when they're available. I think the one thing would just be to try to limit distractions in the sense of like phones or try to be in a quiet place, or whatever. I just don't
Yeah.
know if anyone's going to get into real deep stuff and then someone's going to may get frustrated because they're trying to talk about whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, me not. I don't fucking know. I've never done it, so I'm just
I mean, if we can keep it light, and I mean, obviously we don't want it to be scripted, like you were saying, but if we
yeah,
can keep it light, we talk about, music, we talk about our families kind of on the surface level. I
yeah,
feel like that's something everybody that would be in the room that you're trying to assemble could relate to. So,
right. Maybe I could get. I'm still trying to figure out how to get other people and then have an online discussion. Like, so
yeah.
have this and then have somebody else here because I got three mics here. Well, actually, technically, I got four, but comfortably, I got two other ones on that side that I could use. But I have a TV here that I need to try to set up, and maybe I could use that, but I don't know what the delay is going to be like. It's just something I haven't got to yet. Just
Okay.
juggling a lot of things and still doing the video editing thing for the program, and um, yeah, man, but it's all good stuff, man. For the most part, all of it's
But
good stuff.
anyways,
Yeah, man, it'd be cool to try to maybe we could try to talk, or we could just meet each other for the first time on there and just try to let it flow how it goes. Um,
yeah,
so I mean, however, I'll leave it to your discretion. Just try to let me know what time and date, and we'll try to figure out like when it's doable. Um, yeah.
that's what's up.
But
Let's make it happen.
yes, sir. So I can just put in the show notes, I guess, where people can find you. What if you want to promote anything, your latest music or any of Push Audio's music?
Uh Fair Hope Cove.
Is that
Real
like at Fairhope Cove or is that a website?
that is like a band name.
Okay, Fairhope Cove. What type of music is that?
Uplifting, uplifting hip hop slash kind of choir or gospel almost.
Cool.
Fair Hope Cove. The project is called The Lighthouse.
Do they have an Instagram page or is that on Push Audio? It's just
It,
still Push out
it's
audio.
it's on Push Audio, yeah.
Okay. So you can go check them out at push.audio. That's the domain.audio. There's a
Yep.
lot of other artists on there.
Dot audio is the domain. There's a ton of audio artists on Push Audio on the
Okay.
Push Audio website for sure.
Yeah, so go check them out, support them. Putting a lot of good messages, good music out. I haven't heard all the artists that you guys have brought on to y'all's domain, but the last time I checked, there was quite a few new ones. So that's pretty cool. You guys are still doing good stuff and putting out good music, and I must say the quality's gotten a lot better too.
Yeah, it's a real creative space, which was always the ultimate vision. Like that's all we ever wanted was a space to create. So for sure, there's a lot of people experiencing, what it's like to be an independent artist and to be able to do exactly what they want to do and not have somebody telling them, no, you can't say that. So
Hmm.
it's unfiltered. You know what I mean? It's not all as lighthearted as the Lighthouse is, but that's what freedom is.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, freedom of speech is definitely something that's been under attack lately. I'm not trying to continue on this tangent and stuff, but it's there's a lot that we didn't cover, but I think there's a lot that we did cover. And at the end of the day, that's what this, like I've always said, this podcast is whatever it needs to be. Sometimes we talk about mountain biking, sometimes we talk about surfing, skiing, we talk about real shit as well. Life. It's a bunch of random conversations. That's kind of why I changed the name to Crashing Convos. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah,
I changed it. It's just because going back to the whole balance thing and not trying to promote one thing or another, especially some of the subjects we talk about. I'm really trying to capture. I don't want to say the right audience because I think it's for everyone. But at the same time, I'm not really trying to promote, overindulgence in any one thing. And
sure.
even though Chug is part of the still part of this the podcast, and that was the original reason why it was Chug in there. I just decided to change that just to not promote that idea behind it and just try to keep it very general at the very basis. That's kind of what we're doing, crashing conversations.
Yeah,
And it could be whatever it needs to be.
it's real rap. I mean, maybe that's subconsciously part of the reason why I'm back on now.
Maybe. Yeah, man. I do feel like everything happens for a reason. And at one point in time, I thought that was a thing people used to say just to make people feel good or
Yeah.
piss people off. One of the two, depending on how you take it. But just my experiences in my life to this point, um, it's if you're able to have the perspective to look inwardly and see things objectively and grow from them, it makes sense. There's a lot of shit that's gone wrong in my life and stuff I've experienced. But at the end of the day, it's made me to the person I am now. And I wouldn't change any of it, no matter how fucked up some of it was and is.
Yeah, that's valid, bro.
Yeah. But yeah, man, you got my number. You know how to get a hold of me. Appreciate you coming on. And I'll put some stuff in the show notes. Send me a nice picture of you.
Got you.
Yeah,
I'll do it,
action
man.
photo.
Thank you for having me on again, man. Always a pleasure. You know what I mean? I deeply appreciate these conversations just on a personal level, even though we have to kind of subterfuge some things. But I honestly feel like we're not the only people having these conversations. You know what I mean? And that's where there's value in what you're doing. And then I appreciate you for that.
Yes, sir.
Seriously.
I'm always here for you, man. And at the very least, leave a message and I'll get back to you. And before I let you go, congrats again on your retirement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, it's not easy shit. I know it, especially in today's culture. But we'll save that for another conversation.
For
Into
sure.
a dark recess
Hit me up.
like playtime
Yes,
at
sir.
night school. I'm bad, but life's cool. I mean, how can I complain? Though I feel pain, many others can't, but would like to. Fake it till you make it. Sitting in a circle, heard an alcoholic say it. Ain't really agreed till I finally related. Found myself in the same place, 10 months wasted. But nothing's all bad. Picture the yin yang, seeing that, so balance is where I then aim. And to hold it all in, I go insane. Thank God for this paper with the pen stains. Yes.
All right, man, have a good night.
Yeah. So, always heard that growth hurts. So the blood, sweat, and tears we shed, growth spurts. Thinking long-term shortcuts don't work. Iron bars hold the cold earth, for real.
Hard to ignore elephant.